A spinner is a really important part of the mayfly life cycle. It's the one time in the mayfly's lifespan, or post-lifespan, that the mayfly is in the water, but it has no chance of escaping. And as a result, it's one of the trout's favorite times to eat the mayfly. And the most important thing that you need to know about mayfly spinners is that when they die, they don't die with their wings up. Wings up like an adult. They die with their wings out, flat in the water. People often say that a parachute Adams is a wonderful mayfly imitation, and it is. But one of the reasons that parachute patterns work so well is they have a horizontal hackle as opposed to the traditional vertical hackle. And the horizontal hackle gives an impression of wings down. So the spinner we're going to tie right now is meant to be used when a parachute Adams isn't doing the trick. When you have fish that won't eat it. You can tell that they're on mayfly spinners, but the parachute Adams isn't quite right. So what we're going to do is make the hackle a little bit bigger. We're going to oversize the hackle a little bit. We're going to make the post a little shorter and not as many turns on the hackle, so it's not as bushy, which makes it a little, not quite as floatable as a parachute Adams, but a little bit more for a selective trout. So let's tie one in a size 14. Here you want a dry fly hook. As with all our flies, crimp the barb when we tie them. The reason that we crimp our barbs when we're tying the fly is a lot of times hooks break when you're crimping the barb with your forceps, with your hemostats. And then you're on the river and you have this wonderful fly and you only have one left and you crimp the barb and the hook breaks. So I would rather the hook breaks right now before I tie the fly than later, because I'm going to crimp my barbs anyway. I just like to do a single layer of thread all the way down the shank. Now I'll make just a few extra wraps right at the very tail end to create a little bit of a hump right there at the base of the hook. Now, we're going to use some coque du leon tailing fibers. They're nice and stiff and straight. These make great mayfly tails. Now I like kind of a bushy tail, which should be about the length of the shank of the hook. Like a wrap or two just to fasten it. And now I'm going to wrap back towards that little bump that I made. And when the thread gets right next to it, you'll see it displays the tail fibers like that. And that's why we use that little ball at the end, is to make those tail fibers split. And we're going to use our post. On this spinner, I like to use a CDC post. You can use anything. I'll take about 3 of those feathers and just kind of stack them together. And we're going to put a little dam in front. I want that feather to stand up, that post. So now we're just running our thread up the post a little ways so that we create something that is a little bit firm to wind our hackle around. The trick with dubbing is to never put too much on at once. You want just a real light coating. We're going to dub him right on up, kind of tapering the body as we get near the front, but mayfly spinners are slender. You don't want the body to be very fat. This mayfly will have lived as a nymph, in some cases, for a whole year, waiting to emerge. He hatches and he only has a couple hours to live as an adult before he dies. Now, we're going to stop right here and select a feather for our hackle. Right up the feather to where the fibers get stiff. I'll pull away some of the soft feathers and that's where you tie in. Now, the way I tie these in is I put the post down vertically, make a wrap or two and sort of draw it back. Now I'm fastening that feather down really well here. And now I'm going to fasten it right around that thread base that we created earlier. Now, for wrapping your parachute hackle, I go this way. One wrap up top, and each following wrap is going to be a little bit lower. 3 full wraps, and that's good enough for most spinners. And just a little bit more dubbing because we're going to do the rest of the thorax and the head. Again, always finish my flies with at least 2 whip finishes. Now I take the post, cut it down quite a bit. It's a little more difficult to tie than some of the other flies, but parachutes are worth learning.